giving you the update on what's going on. Today is the 21st of June. It's Friday. It's 9:43 in the morning. Unfortunately for us, this punishment heat is not yet dissipated. 97 high today, but tomorrow it will break for some days. The high tomorrow will be 92, the low 71. And it'll stay pretty good for a week or so or longer. A week from Sunday, they say it'll hit 99, but they can't predict that far. Anyway, it looks like we'll be out of the thick of it tomorrow. I was thinking it was going to be today for some reason, and I was disappointed when I checked the weather. It's really hard to get the dogs outside, to sit outside and everything. It's rough. It's rough. Okay, so I'm going to go into the chat and make sure we got sound and picture and all the little things like that. Put a couple of quick posts up there. I'm going to go through the current events, what's going on in the Middle East and the world. You know, as you know, we're facing three major wars. The world is Ukraine, Russia, and Europe, NATO, and China versus Taiwan, North Korea versus South Korea, which will drag Japan and the Philippines into it, and the whole Middle East thing. And I'm going to go through all these things in detail, show you how they tie together, what's going on, what to expect, and tie things to Bible prophecy with the verses and everything else, okay? We speak English here, sorry. I'll be a minute or so putting some posts up. Not long at all. I like to get them up before people come in and start posting, like my email address, offering information. Almost there, guys. It's not going to be very long. Sit still, it's worth it. You're going to get a good idea of current events along with the Bible prophecies to support it. And we are going to be talking about the two witnesses today. Okay. Being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise now. If you want to join in or not join in, that's entirely up to you. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, I'd like to mention this or ask for prayer. I'm getting some minor harassment problems from one of my payment processors. Please pray that I get through this just fine. I don't have any problems, and the Lord helps me a lot with it. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't have other prayer requests today. So, where we'll start is appropriate the war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Living in Israel many years, it's not my first war by far, and following the wars and all that, I could explain to you pretty accurately what's going on. And plus the Lord helps me quite a bit. I don't want to downplay that. And He showed me some things today. So we're practically finished with the war in Gaza. Okay, there's maybe 1/4 of the Rafah area, which is South Gaza near Egypt, that has still not been, let's say, conquered by the Israel troops. There's so little left to conquer, we've started redeploying troops out of Gaza up to the north by Lebanon. We still intend to have 6 battalions in Gaza with tanks, probably mobile artillery, other armored vehicles, and air cover and artillery cover and so forth. It appears that Netanyahu actually is making a wisdom move, and they're creating a buffer zone in Gaza that's 2 kilometers wide. That's 1.2 miles. That's pretty. I'm gonna clean my glasses. They're not all clean yet. That is a, insult to the Muslim terrorists. They don't like it. They're complaining. I don't think America likes it, but I don't think America is going to do anything about it. This is to protect any sort of ground incursion. It's not going to be very instrumental or significant in stopping rocket and missile launches, of which they have precious few left. Now, you need to understand a lot of other things about this if you want to know the picture. Egypt's role in this attack on Israel was allowing the smuggling of weapons into Gaza from Egypt. Not just weapons, but tunnel construction materials, concrete, steel beams, steel doors to compartmentalize it, and so forth. And when you're talking 200 miles, actually now we think there were probably 300 miles in tunnels when you take into account the Rafah tunnels. So when you're looking at 300 miles of tunnels, I would think you would have at least 5,000 or 8,000 40-foot tractor trailer loads of concrete and steel girders. Thousands. And Egypt didn't know about this. Yeah, right, tell me another one. So Egypt is super guilty, but nobody's holding them responsible. Of course, Israel's aware of this. Why Netanyahu never stopped this before the attack is $1 million question, isn't it? Okay, so these tunnels have been destroyed, and there's troops by the border between Rafah and Egypt. So the smuggling into Gaza has come to I would say at least a 95% halt. There could be a tunnel someplace we don't know about, but Israel seems to think it's 100% over. No more tunnels. They're probably right. They have ability to detect tunnels from the surface. They have various instruments. Now Hamas is facing a shortage of ammunition. We've found many ammo depots since October 7th, blown many up, and now they can't bring more ammo in. So they're running out of ammo across the board, not just bullets, probably everything. I'm sure there's still ammo in there, but um, it's probably at a point where they have to ration their ammo very carefully. They also cannot escape out of Gaza anymore. They can't run away into Egypt. That's finished. Would Egypt shelter them? Probably, if they could get away with it. If there were tunnels, they could get away with it. Now they can't. They can't just strut across the border and the Egyptian soldiers give them a bottle of water and some food to eat. That ain't happening. Egypt is afraid to take that step. So they're trapped like rats, and they're fanatic, and they're hanging on. And what are they hanging on for? They're hanging on for a diplomatic solution. They're hanging on for Iran and the Houthis and the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria to come save them. It ain't gonna happen. Okay? Prophecy says they're finished. They shall fly upon the soldiers of the shoulders of the Philistines. It talks about them having blood in their teeth and God's getting rid of it. It's the year of recompenses. Hamas has basically had it, but they're not giving up. If they give up, they lose their jobs. Iran's not going to pay them if they can't do anything. If they're able to attain a ceasefire where they stay intact and in control over Gaza, we would not be able to stop the making of new tunnels into Egypt. Egypt would continue the smuggling. It would take weeks, probably 2, 3, 4 weeks, and they would start missile attacking again to earn their paycheck from Iran. If they're of no use to Iran, Iran's not going to fund them. Why? If Israel's dominating Gaza with troops, and they're completely out of control, and another government is set up, be it an Israeli interim military government or whatever, they're done. Iran's just going to cut them off. Iran's vicious and savage and cruel, and Hamas is a disposable asset. They're not going to keep supporting them. Okay? It's just not going to happen. And they know that. So they're hanging on for something. But it's just, if we're moving the troops away from Rafah, it's just days away. It's over. When we say run out of ammo, probably anti-tank missiles, bullets, explosive devices, everything. They probably have food because they've been stealing the humanitarian aid for a long time. But the food was maybe likely stored in the tunnels and is gone. I don't see why they couldn't put civilian clothes on and go get food handouts, though. So I don't think they're starving, and I don't think they're dying of thirst. Running out of ammo is a bad thing for them, because then they can't fight. Will they do a bonsai charge and just, 400 or 500 rush out of buildings and charge the Israelis with the remaining 10 or 20 bullets they have left or something? Yeah, but they're going to be charging tanks and armored vehicles. Good luck with that, That's just, I don't mean good luck with it literally, it's just, a figure of speech. They ain't going to get anywhere. So you could basically assume the Hamas, and along with them is Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and they have a tiny amount of other French groups. They're cooked, they're finished. As of today, they're finished. They barely ever get a rocket off. They did go into some UNWRA storage for food or something facility and launch a rocket from there, probably right outside the door. Sporadically they get some kind of a rocket off. Now these aren't serious rockets, they're Katyushas, and then they just run away, hey, look what we did, and it's silly. Drones we're not seeing from them anymore. That's pretty rare you ever see a drone, so those are finished. Um, so they're counting on the Houthis, the ship attacks, and Lebanon attacks, and Iran to attack Israel again to save the day and get a ceasefire where they can remain in Gaza, continue to have a paycheck from Iran, and live as the elite in Gaza, taking grievous, gross advantage of the civilians who still seem to support them. No other country wants them because of the blood in their teeth. They're afraid to have them in their country. Nobody's that stupid. So Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, etc., won't let any of them in. They don't want them. Okay? Egypt might, if we hadn't knocked off the tunnels, might have let them come in and stay in the Sinai Peninsula under military guard or something like that to save their lives. But those days are finished. Perhaps some got out already, I don't know. Will we get Sinwar, the leader, who's not the real leader? The real leaders are in Qatar. The media doesn't talk much about it. They're staying in five-star hotels in Qatar, giving orders to Sinwar and the other guys. These people, it's rumored, the ones in Qatar, or Qatar, or however you want to pronounce it, are rumored to be richer than Donald Trump. Really. I think there's 2 or 3 of them up there. And they're calling the shots, and, you know, it's not conducive in the diplomatic environment for Israel to go into Qatar, an American ally, and blow their hotel up, which would cause hundreds of civilian deaths, and Qatar military guarding them and stuff like that. So Israel's not is afraid to do that. Okay, Israel takes a path of eliminating the commanders of the enemies, and it never worked very well in Qatar. The thought is it's a way to hurt them without massive destruction, but it, you know, which would cause massive retaliation. But in Lebanon, they're doing it and they're getting massive retaliation. It's, in my opinion, let's say 10 on the 10 scale is the best tactic, 1 is the worst, it's a 3. It does have some effect. If you kill enough of the commanders, you're obviously going to create disunity in the new regimes, the ones that step up into the higher position, the underlings, and they may not agree and see eye to eye like the predecessors, but it's a poor, stupid tactic. Netanyahu also likes blowing up buildings, which is a poor, stupid tactic. Blowing up ammo depots isn't so bad. It did have an effect in Gaza after they did a lot of it, you know. And they had to blow up the houses these people lived in, which caused their families to get killed and so forth. Genocide. It's a lousy approach, okay? If you want to drag out a war and make it look good that you're trying, that's a good way to do it. Like blowing up buildings is a good way to do it. You know, they don't care about buildings getting blown up. They got plenty of money to rebuild buildings. Okay. So the Gaza thing is basically going to be over. There's going to be a 2-kilometer wide buffer zone all through Gaza. So the chances of incursions are going to be rather minimalistic, if, you know, probably never see an incursion. That's a long walk, 1.2 miles. So you're talking about a distance of 24 city blocks. How stealthy can you be across 24 city blocks? We're going to have cameras all over the place that are going to be day cameras and night vision cameras. And we're going to have sensors. And we're going to have watchtowers inside Israel with binoculars, with night optics, watching round the clock. There will be no incursions into Israel. Could they still float those incendiary balloons from inside Gaza? I haven't seen or heard of any of those really in many months. So my thoughts are Israel's probably cut off the helium or the hydrogen, whatever they put in the balloon. So they don't have that. So they're not going to be able to launch the balloons. So they're basically going to be of no effect. What we do with them is another problem. Israel wants to deport out of Gaza the leaders and the commanders that still remain alive, but where are they going to send them? I don't think they have a place. I mean, if Biden thought they would vote for him, he might bring them to America, but I doubt that Biden would do that. I would say that's not a realistic. You're not going to see that with any chance. It's just not going to happen. So now we go to Lebanon. And Hochstein, the special advisor to Biden, was here and tried to negotiate with Hezbollah. They told him to take a long walk on a short pier. They had no interest. They're not stopping. Why? Because they too will be out of a job if they stop listening to Iran. And they live rather nicely. They get paid well. The economy in Lebanon is horrible. Horrible. You have no idea. It's probably worse than the 1930 Depression threefold. It's really bad. Okay? And they don't want to live like a regular, Lebanese person. They are not the official government, but the official government says they're afraid of them. Which could probably be the truth, because Lebanon is not a big Muslim majority country with Sharia law. They got, Catholics, Christians, they got lots of different religions there. There's a very significant amount of Muslims there. But it tries to operate as a democracy, but it's a failed democracy, but it's still there. So Hochstein spoke to them, and he made this a public commentary. It wasn't private or secret. That if this goes to full-scale war, that America and her allies would back Israel. Now, we need to discuss what does back mean. Well, in any event, it means doom and gloom to Hezbollah, unless Biden breaks his word, which is a possibility, but in this case, as I'll illustrate to you, I doubt it. So, back could mean all kinds of things. Minimally, it would mean reconnaissance assistance locating targets. It would probably mean stopping the Houthis, Iran, and the militias in Iraq and Syria from bringing troops into Lebanon to support them, which may mean bombing them on the way in. So in other words, if 25,000 militias assemble and start marching from Iraq to Syria to Lebanon, the Americans may stop them with bombing. That's the only way to stop them. You're not going to be able to, drop leaflets and say, turn back or you'll be killed. They'll just laugh at you. The only thing these Muslim terrorists understand is actual extreme brutal force. That's violence. That's all they understand. That's the only thing they respond to. Okay? And even then, with their jihadist, be a martyr mentality, they don't even respond to that sometimes. Okay, so moving forward. The Hochstein said they have till June 24th to come to a diplomatic solution. The press secretary in the White House, I think yesterday, said that they were asking him if they're going to back Israel. Did they tell Israel that and all that stuff? And he said, I'm just going to stop here. We prefer a diplomatic solution, which is really what they prefer. But America does not understand the Middle East. This regime doesn't. Previous regimes, I think, did. I think old man Bush, when he attacked Iraq, had a decent understanding of things. and Iraq knocked off Kuwait, and they were realizing that Iraq was going to keep knocking off other countries and become a great power in the Middle East, which is what Iran is trying to do. So they destroyed Iraq, and they eventually hung Saddam Hussein. Now, he was no different than the other psychotic leaders of these terrorist, jihadist, suicide groups. Okay, it was just another version of it that was more economically oriented. And he really took horrible advantage of the population. Then Hochstein said within 5 weeks Israel would invade Lebanon. Now, he didn't say after 5 weeks, he said within. Now, that's not anything Israel said, and it's not cast in stone. So it might be an accurate figure, and it may be just a ruse or a ploy to make them think they have more time. So Lebanon, or the Houthis, not a lot's going to happen till the 24th. Now, there's no reason that I would believe Israel's going to attack on the 25th of June. Israel's not going to let them know when they attack. What Israel is doing now is it's every day attacking strategic tactical targets of Hezbollah inside Lebanon, going quite deep into Lebanon. I think they're going up 40, 50 miles. This is probably to cripple Hezbollah in as many ways as they can imagine. Nasrallah, the psychopath head of Hezbollah, is hiding to such an extent in the tunnels and underground bunkers, of which Hezbollah has quite a few. And he wouldn't even attend his mother's funeral. That's how scared he is. Okay? He's scared. So he comes out with a press statement the other day that, we might attack ships in the Mediterranean. Well, that's a pretty stupid thing to say, like the Houthis are doing. That means shipping in the Mediterranean could be curtailed a little bit, because ships are going to have to veer at least 200 or 300 miles away from Lebanon. Ships, when they travel, generally like to say within 25 miles of the coastline. It's safer for them from pirates and so forth. It's safer for them if they get into a problem, and they have shipping lanes where they travel. They all, so if something happens, they can help each other, rescue the crew, so forth. They don't necessarily are going to be too excited about having to go 300 miles off the coast of Lebanon. That means they've got to stay away from Israel too. So what he was saying is we could attack ships coming into Israel. You got it? Haifa is not far from Lebanon. Okay? How far is not far? Well, maybe 45 to 60 minutes by car on low-speed roads. It's within their missile range. Okay? Maybe 40, 50 miles. Maybe 40, 35, 40 miles. So they can attack the port in Haifa, which is a big port. Okay? So they could curtail sea traffic around Israel. But to be sure, any ships that could be associated with Israel won't go near Lebanon. Now, the way the Houthis do it is if you own Maersk line, Maersk or something, shipping line which probably has hundreds and hundreds of merchant marine vessels, you know, container ships, tankers, whatever, cargo ships. One of their ships comes in and out of Israel, which happened. Now they shoot at every ship Maersk has, even if they don't go anywhere near Israel. So this is another form of a siege on Israel that Lebanon is threatening. Okay, I don't think they were really threatening to, you know, worrying about ships that are just passing through the Mediterranean have nothing to do with Israel. But if their company ever at one point did, they'll sink the ship. They'll have the same anti-ship missiles that the Houthis have. A day or two ago, they sunk a very large merchant marine boat, and on my Telegram channel, I put up videos of it, and it was in flames. They, in the last 48 or so hours, they hit a ship that went down into, you know, it sunk, and they hit another ship, merchant marine vessels, that is sinking. It's expected to sink. Now, this is not an act of great bravery, hitting defenseless merchant marine vessels, but these lunatics attack military vessels too. So we can't go ahead and pin a coward's label on them because they're psychotic. Okay? The Houthis cannot win a war with America and Great Britain if America and Great Britain decide to go after them. Okay? They can't. So the Houthis are part of this coalition that Iran has formed of proxies. And they are predominantly Hamas, who's basically finished. The Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is still alive and well, and the Houthis in Yemen, which is still alive and well. Now, it's common knowledge to us in the Middle East and astute people around the world that Iran has warships placed in the Red Sea because the Houthis have no more radar. America and Great Britain keep taking it out. And these, they launch missiles and drones that, if it's a ballistic missile, the Iran warship, the Houthis launch it, so hey, the Houthis did it. And their ship, the Iranian ship in the Red Sea, guides and directs the missile into targets. Plus, it finds the targets and sends it to the Houthis. It also guides and directs drones in a similar fashion. America and Great Britain have not yet told Iran to get your ship out of there in 24 hours or we're going to sink it, which is stupid. The Houthis say 90% of the traffic through the Red Sea is gone. It's not going through there anymore. I believe it. And I imagine it's going to pretty quickly go to 95 or 98%. It's probably never going to be that no ship will go through there, but even at 90%, they have stopped shipping in the Red Sea. This makes America, Great Britain, NATO, the Allies, you know, weak and stupid and confused, and don't know what to do, and it drives the Houthis on, and they recently said they're going to expand their operations into the Sea of Oman, which is right outside of the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. How they're going to do this remains to be seen. I don't know. Okay, now Iran pulls the strings and controls the Houthis. Remember that. Just like Hamas, just like Hezbollah. Okay? So, let's say America just pours the weapons into Israel. Curiously, Netanyahu just put an order in for 50 F-15s. And I believe it was approved by Congress already. So let's say America just pops up and says, oh, Israel needs help. We're going to do an emergency rapid delivery of 50 F-15s next week. So they have enough F-15s, or maybe they won't give them 50, they may give them 15 or 25 or something. They fly them over to Israel, and now Israel's got more planes. And the pilots here pretty well know how to fly F-15s. We've had them before. And we have 50 F-35s with 25 on order. Then they may up the delivery date on that 25 to next week. give us some out of inventory. That's one thing they could do. I think they're releasing the bombs, the 3,500 heavy bombs. I'm not sure yet, but it looks like they're going to be quickly released. I believe so. But you never know with Biden. But there was some commentary from the Americans that it was coming quickly now. They gave us some emergency anti-missile defense systems to cover holes in our defenses that were caused probably by Hezbollah attacks on military bases near the border. Now, the fear in Israel, which has caused a lot of Israelis to take a powder out of Israel for a while anyway, to other countries, the fear is that Hezbollah, they think, can unleash 1,000 missiles a day. Now, these would not be sophisticated missiles. They would be Katyushas and junkie missiles. Mingled in would be some sophisticated long-range missiles. And Hamas was able to attain figures close to this, so I'm pretty sure Hezbollah can do it. Okay? And at the same time, Iran could launch, say, another 1,000 missiles and drones from Iran and Iraq, possibly Syria, into Israel at the same time, and begin to overwhelm the Israeli air defenses, which would probably work. Then missiles would start hitting targets, which would, the choice targets would be the military bases. If they damage and destroy enough military bases, then they can try to do a push over the border and take hostages. Lebanon needs a few hundred hostages like Hamas did to get themselves out of the soup when it falls apart, and they know it will fall apart. Israel's well aware of this. I don't think they'll be successful. I'm trying to focus my thoughts here. We are seeing the movement of Iraqi militias that are backed by Iran. These are severe terrorists, cut your head off, rape the women, kill the babies. Moving into Syria. Now, there's a number of concerns about this, and I'll tell you what the purpose of this is. It's twofold. One is to push enough of them. They go from Iraq to Syria, and then they go from the Syrian border to Lebanon. So the idea is move them from Iraq to Syria, and then into Lebanon to support Hezbollah. But this is rather stupid. How are they going to support them? They don't have any Air Force. They don't have any Navy. I mean, it's sort of stupid. But anyway, it'll make Hezbollah feel better. The war is going to be won by missiles, bombs, mortars, artillery, tanks, and to a very small extent, soldiers shooting each other with rifles. When it comes down to the soldiers shooting each other with rifles in Lebanon, what it means is that Lebanon is stuck hiding in tunnels and underground bunkers and buildings and hoping for the best. That's when that comes to bear. But it would have some effect in making it harder for Israel to clean the rats out. Now, the million-dollar question is Israel and or America, UK, and American allies going to stop these militias from going into Lebanon? Well, they might stop in Syria and not attempt to cross to Lebanon until the eggs start hitting the fan. That would be a likely outcome. Would America and Israel hit them while they're still in Syria? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But the bringing in, listen hard, the bringing in of these militias to Syria means that they're beefing up their strength in Syria with the purpose of going after the American military bases in Syria. They already have enough in Iraq to go after Americans' Iraq bases in Iraq, and the consulate, the embassy, and so forth. And what they're going to try to do, believe me, what they're going to try to do is not just destroy these bases. That gives them not a lot of strategic advantage or tactical advantage, some, but not a lot. What they're going to try to do is initially, missile and mortar attack the bases, and a tank missile attack them and stuff like that, and get the bases are not heavily defended. They probably have walls, bunkers, and stuff, but the idea is to get them discombobulated on the bases, the American soldiers. And there's British bases there, and other countries have bases too, but predominantly America. And when they're confused from a pounding with various ordnance hitting them, charge the base with overwhelming force. So in other words, let's say they have a base and there's 150, 200 soldiers there, hit them with 800, 900 soldiers. Okay? They don't have tanks and stuff to hit with, so they're going to have to go in with foot soldiers, with, RPGs and AK-47s. Very basic World War II kind of stuff, and overrun the base. And if they have enough militias to throw at the base, they may have to throw 15 or 1,800 at a base. Apparently they have those numbers. They could put 2,000 or 3,000 on a base. And the idea is to capture the American soldiers alive, as many as they can, and as many bases that they can, and collect a few hundred hostages like Hamas did. This, in their minds, will maybe stop America. It'll maybe change the tide of their wars against Israel. And they'll get a lot of support from the Muslim world for this. They'll torture the American soldiers to try to get intel from them. They will rape the American female soldiers repeatedly, probably till they're dead, because that's how they are, okay? But they will retain a certain amount of living hostages. And if you're talking about a number of bases and several thousand American troops there, it must be 3, 4, 5, 6,000 or something like that. They could walk away quite easily with 300 to 500 hostages, or 1,000 even. And they would move them into Iran ultimately, or hide them in Iraq. They wouldn't want them in Syria. Now, we hit some facilities in Syria yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, could have been the day before, and we dropped leaflets on, pamphlets on the Syrian regular army, the government's army, telling them don't help Hezbollah. So we just sent a warning shot to the Syrian army, they better not help Hezbollah. So if they're going to help Hezbollah travel through Syria to Lebanon, it appears Israel is going to be attacking. We can attack anywhere in Syria without any serious anti-aircraft disturbances. And Bashar Assad knows that, but Bashar Assad has to comply with Iran's wishes. Russia's in there, and I don't believe Russia's going to come to the aid of Iran, but it could happen. Russia has to watch what they do. It's one thing to send 3 or 4 warships to America and rattle them up, but that's not an attack, okay? Russia's got its hands full with Ukraine. They got 700,000 soldiers in or around Ukraine now. They are very, very, very committed to overrunning Ukraine with their military and just pushing to the west of Ukraine more and more and more until they take over Ukraine. By all indications, NATO has no intentions of letting this happen. They'll bring large amount of troops into Ukraine before they let this happen. A large amount of troops is going to be at least 100,000. Might be 2, 3, 4, 500,000. They said they could muster 500,000, but they're not going to send all their troops down into Ukraine. But 50 or 100,000 sounds realistic, and they'll come with tanks, aircraft, missiles, armored vehicles, mobile artillery, towed artillery, missile launchers, all sorts of air support with planes, all sorts of good weapons that will give the Russians a very, very bad time with high casualties. Break morale, break their army, destroy their vehicles, their infrastructure, their fuel supplies, their comms, their radar, everything. So Putin facing this, plus having to help China if that goes bonkers, is not that likely to say, "Oh, I'll go help Israel too." This would be a snare that Biden would be putting on Russia to get Russia to send, 100,000 soldiers and 90 airplanes and 12 warships to go help Syria and Lebanon and Iran. It would weaken Russia's defenses. Russia knows that. Russia knows they're in grievous danger of being invaded by Ukraine and NATO, where, if Ukraine could get away with it, they would go into Russia and carve out a buffer zone, which with today's weapons would probably have to be, 60 miles would be very productive. 25 miles wouldn't do much. 60 miles would stop a lot of weapons and increase the warning time for the weapons that can travel 60 miles and still be deadly. To get really pretty darn good immunity from the missiles, they'd have to go 200 miles, and I don't think 60 miles is a lot. A 25 or a 40-mile buffer zone maybe they could achieve, and it would help a lot. First of all, it stops a ground invasion, which is very important. It gives you a little bit of early warning time over jets and missiles, not a lot. But that would be something they would try, and then the civilians trapped in this buffer zone would be under Ukrainian dominion. Russia would be very bummed out and depressed, and an overthrow of Putin by assassination or something else could be a likely occurrence. And they may not want to put a redneck, a real gung-ho warrior in. They may want to put a peacemonger in. But probably Medvedev would be the guy, and he's more right-wing than Putin is. So I wouldn't plan. Putin could come up with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 soldiers and put them in Syria near Israel as a threat, thinking Israel would be afraid to attack them. But when Israel is fighting for its life, they'll just blow them up. Okay. Goodbye, Russian soldiers. And then Israel would be good enough to take out the Russian military base in Latakia on the Mediterranean, which is essential for Putin's war with NATO. It's absolutely a tactical must. And it comes with a Russian air base, also in Latakia, a few kilometers, very close to the Navy base. So that also gives him access to the Mediterranean militarily. So he's very interested in not losing that. And if he ticks Israel off enough, it'd be child's play for Israel to wipe out both those bases. It would take nothing much. It'd take an afternoon. Probably just part of an afternoon. It wouldn't really be a problem, okay? The F-35 surface-to-surface missiles. Basically we take out the radar, then we blow the base up. That's all. It's not that difficult. Let me check the chat and see if I gotta throw the garbage out. You'll see where I'm taking you biblically speaking. Just wait. It's the end of the age, not the end of everything. Thank you for the Shabbat Shalom. I don't even know who Tom Brady is, sorry. When they call me grandpa, I take it as a mockery and I just block them. That's not a sign of somebody coming here to learn or, contribute in a meaningful way to the conversation. It's just some childish mockery. It really doesn't bother me. I just get rid of them because they just keep posting in the chat incessantly, taking up chat space with their nonsense, People that come in here and say you don't know what you're talking about, you're a false teacher or stuff like that. I've never seen them post any scriptures that are meaningful ever. Well, maybe years ago I did, but not in recent years even. Do they ever come up with scriptures to refute what I say? So those posts are quite meaningless. Anybody could say, oh, you're crazy, you're wrong, you're not teaching like that. Where are your scriptures to support your position? They don't have them because they can't refute it. So they're meaningless. Ignore that. So Israel and the UK and France may also attack Lebanon with Israel. Okay? Backing them is not a clear definition. It doesn't really lend itself to we're going to give them arms and support. Well, also, but let's remember that France has big vested investments in Lebanon, and they don't want to see Lebanon turn into a wasteland like Gaza. Okay? So I would say America, France, and the UK minimally would be attacking Hezbollah. And why would they do this? Because they would try to do strategic tactical strikes to disable Hezbollah and preserve the rest of Lebanon. Just South Lebanon near the Israeli border would be gone. To a great extent, it's gone now. A lot of the residents have evacuated the south of Lebanon. They don't feel comfortable there, which makes it easier for us to wipe out Hezbollah because that's all who's left there for the most part, so we can knock them off. Hezbollah is not playing the human shield game as Gaza because they're not the official government of Lebanon. There are villages that Hezbollah has moved into. They get a house and they operate out of the house. They set up comms, ammo, supplies, food, medical, blah, blah, blah. And the villages in these small villages have run them out. Told them they want them out. Make them leave. They don't have a shooting war with them. They get them out. And that's happened more than once. It's happened a bunch. So that's another twist in the game. Lebanon resistance said they had 20,000 people and half the Lebanese army with them, and they would attack Hezbollah if they pushed this war with Israel. But I haven't seen any actions from them. Probably running them out of the villages was this resistance, but I haven't seen anything further. But we might, and if they are real, which I suspect they are. It's very, very, very likely that America and the UK and France and Israel are supporting them in many different ways: money, communications, weapons, tactics. No. They could have military advisors in there helping them. I'm going to take a fast break for a minute. I'll be right back. So Hezbollah is most unlikely to go to a diplomatic solution over this at all. I expect the Lebanese army and the Lebanese government will reach out to the Americans and the Brits and the French and ask for help because they don't want their country destroyed. If they don't, their country's going to be destroyed. So this is something America, UK, and France can use as an alibi for attacking Hezbollah, other than we're trying to help the Jews, and that might happen. Now, these militias in Iraq and Syria taking American hostages is, I'm sure the American Pentagon is well aware this could happen. Now, I haven't heard of them sending another 5,000 or 10,000 soldiers over there to fortify these bases much better. If they put 3 or 4 tanks on each base, gave them another 4 or 5 artillery pieces, another 20 mortars, another couple hundred drones. It would make the attack fundamentally a lot harder, but then they could just up the ante to 6,000 or 8,000 guys hitting a base. They're not going to take the base because it'll just get blown up. They could take the base if they have 200 or 300 hostages in the base. Then what's America going to do? Why would America let this happen? I'll give you a great reason. Because if this happens, which it very likely will, the American public will go absolutely nuts calling for blood. Who? I'll tell you who. Everybody in the military with a dependent in the military or friend or relative in the military, which is a huge amount of people. All the gun people, all the preppers, all the survivalists, all the militias, all the right wingers. And what are the Palestinians going to do? Are they going to start holding protests on the American campuses because America's going to go to war against Iran because Iran-backed militias overran the bases? Now, America has no permission from Syria to be there, nor from Iraq. Iraq even keeps telling them to get out. They don't get out. But imagine a bunch of Palestinian protests. The right-wing portion of America would stone them. And the police would probably stand there and watch the blood spill out of these Palestinian protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters. The military are the police are generally pro-military. Okay. Biden knows this. Iran, the chances of Iran repelling, stopping, or defending itself against an American attack is, 2%, 3%. I mean, it's just about non-existent. They can't. They don't have a Navy, they don't have any anti-aircraft systems worth of it. What are they going to do? Nothing. They're going to get blown up. Some weeks ago, they hit Israel with a massive drone and missile attack, which did precious little harm in Israel. A few days later, Israel destroyed 2 Iranian bases with F-35s. We took out the radar, then blew the bases up, and we took the radar out in 5 nuclear sites. This came out in the media, then got suppressed. Believe me, we did it. Israel doesn't go around in the media and brag like the Houthis or someone like that. Oh, we took out the radar at the bases. The next sign of trouble, we're going to take their nuclear facilities out. First of all, the nuclear facilities are, to a great extent on the ground and stuff, but which is difficult to take out. But Israel doesn't care about that. Israel sends a message to Iran. You stir the pot again and try something like that. The next move is your nuclear facilities. And the next move after that, I'm sure, would be the oil refineries, the oil wells, and the ports where they load the natural gas and oil onto ships. And Iran can't stop it. The strength of Iran is its proxies. The Houthis in Yemen, who are attacking ships like crazy. And they've got 90% of the shipping not using the Red Sea anymore. They're diverting around Africa, which adds a week to the trip. Extra fuel costs. The cargo is stuck on the ship an extra week. That costs money. Wear and tear on the ship, more insurance because the transit time is increased, and the payroll for the crew. The world's not happy, and everybody knows Iran's behind it. Gaza, the Hamas and PIJ in Gaza, they're defunct. Forget them. Write them off. Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Iraqi-based, supported militias in Iraq and Syria, which can present a real threat. They're in the hundreds of thousands. They're not part of the Iraqi regular government, and like Hezbollah with Lebanon, and they're not part of the Syrian regular government. And Syria and Iraq says, oh, what are we going to do? We can't do anything about it. Just like Lebanon, same old joke. The government of Lebanon is responsible for Lebanon, and that's that. Just like in Gaza, what happened in Israel was 4 or 5 rockets, or 2 rockets would come in, And Hamas would say, oh, we didn't do it, another group did it. And Israel would bomb them anyway in retaliation. And the explanation was, you're in charge of Gaza, we bomb you. And that's the same mentality of Israel that's being applied to Lebanon. And America is going to apply that, and Israel and the UK and France and other countries against the governments of Syria and Iraq. Damascus shall be a ruin of seat, is in the scriptures, as a prophecy. There you go. Damascus is the seat of Bashar Assad's government. That's where his military is, he is, his palace is, his intel centers and the command centers and all of that. And it's rather well busted up to date, but it's still functioning. Russia's not in any position to come to the aid of anybody, except maybe China. They're not in a position to help Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, and take care of Europe and fight NATO and help China and Asia Pacific. They don't have it. They're not that big. So that in this axis of this coalition against America, the key players are China and Russia. The next tier down, and it's a big step down, is Iran and North Korea, who are disposable assets. China intends to use North Korea to attack and destroy and take over South Korea, and the amount of damage that North Korea is going to take is significant. America just sent, or in the next few days, is sending 1,000 loitering drones to Taiwan. Now, a loitering drone flies, and the operator on the TV screen, so that the screen watches for a target to appear, and then the drone is a kamikaze. It dives down, blows itself up, and destroys the target. Most of these do not have great big explosive warheads on them, but I imagine some might have a decent warhead. But 1,000's not going to cut it. It's going to cause trouble for China if they invade. It's going to cause losses, which China doesn't care much about, as long as it's controllable. And it will slow them down, but I think a more meaningful figure would be 25,000 in these drones. 1,000 could be used up in 2 days, easily. So, while it's helpful, it's not a game changer. 25,000 would be a problem for China, because that could slow them down for a month. I don't know how hard it would be for China to take these drones down. Maybe they could take them all down. In which case it wears away the anti-aircraft missiles that China has. So Biden and the Pentagon have to know the Iraqi militias are moving into Syria. And they have to be aware that they may storm and take over the bases. And if they have hostages, the American public will turn crazy against them. If they don't take hostages, just kill the soldiers and destroy the bases, the American public will go nuts. America will see to it. That will turn the public tide towards Biden taking revenge. And who's going to resist? I mean, the pro-Palestinian people will. Oh, they'll say, what are you doing? All Iran and the militias wanted to do was kill your soldiers and run your bases out of there. You have no right to be there. And now you want to go to war in Iran just because they killed your soldiers? You see, that's their mentality. If he builds public support up to attack Iran and attacks Iran successfully, which he's got a 98-99% chance of doing, especially with his allies, Biden talked about, then he gets rip-roaring public support. And they're going to say, this is a signal to Russia and China and North Korea what's going to happen to them. So is it likely they're going to use Lebanon to provoke Iran? Yes. How will this work? Iran is nothing without its proxies. Its proxies, again, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, which is defunct, basically. Forget about them. They're off the board. The Houthis in Yemen, which are alive and well. The militias, which are very many people, hundreds of thousands, in Iraq and Syria. So America's going to, and our allies are going to support Israel, so now we'll wipe out the American bases in Iraq and Syria. That's Iran's game. Now, if there's American bases in Iraq and Syria, they can be beefed up. Okay? They can go from 200-300 soldiers to 3,000 or 4,000 soldiers. Tanks could be brought in, helicopters. And then if Iran decides they're going to attack Israel by coming into Iraq and then Syria and attacking Israel from Syria, they have to do away with these American bases in Iraq and Syria, or they could be in serious problems. America could put 4 or 5 surface-to-surface missile launchers in each of these bases. You know what kind of destruction that would rain down on an Iranian armored column, going through, moving at 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, or something like that. Devastating destruction. And then America could airlift thousands of more troops in to keep building it up with all kinds of air cover. So if Iran wants the security of coming after these bases, to help Lebanon and to help destroy Israel, it needs to do this. It can just sit there and launch missiles and drones, but they know Israel is going to bomb them immediately or very soon after, so they don't know what to do. If Iran loses Hezbollah, it's 50% crippled. Okay? If the ships are going around the south of Africa and not going through the Red Sea, the Houthis are basically useless. I mean, they're useful because they got the ships not taking the expeditious, cheap, fast route, but that's it. They burned out. All they can do is maintain. So they could be dealt with later on. Okay? They don't have to be dealt with immediately because it's going to take a ground invasion of at least 100,000 soldiers, maybe 250,000. And why waste your time with that when Iran is still functioning? That's the head of the snake. Just take out Iran. Iran is a more modern, advanced country than Yemen. They do have stuff underground in bunkers and tunnels and stuff like that, but as such a large country on a higher sophistication level than Yemen, they have tons of stuff above ground, and they have a really thriving oil and natural gas business with pipelines and stuff like that that will be destroyed. Now, Yemen has a trump card to play. It's not going to help them win any war, but it will cause pain and suffering on Europe, America, South America, Asia, Africa, Middle East, and lots of places. And that would be to go and blow up more of the internet cables. And the Pentagon knows that this could happen. I don't think they could stop this from happening. All they got to do is take barrel bombs or any other kind of explosive device, and they know where the cables are, and drop 4 or 5 of these bombs down. And the cables are located close to shore, so the water's not that deep. They might be 100 feet on the water, 200 feet, something like that. So they drop the barrel of the bomb down till it hits bottom, and they press the detonator, and you do that 4 or 5 times, you're going to blow the tunnels, these cables up. The cables are not secured inside, 36 inches of concrete or anything like that, or in 2-inch thick steel pipes. They're insulated with a rubber or some plastic or something. They're not armored. These cables are used for the SWIFT money transfer system. Okay? And that's banks sending money to other banks, wire transfers. And these cables would probably interrupt the wire transfers of at least 1/3 of the world. 1/3 of the daily wire transfers wouldn't happen. Maybe 40%, something like that. It's major. Cables can be repaired, but it takes time. It's not, something you're going to do in an afternoon, especially if they blow them up in multiple locations, which they might do. Can America see them blowing them up? Nah. They could use fishing boats, little, boats that they don't have a cover, they're just 20 feet, 30 feet long, open, you sit on a board, with fishing nets, and so they can use those. They could have people go out on fishing boats that are divers, and the nets could be covering up the bombs, and they could just slip overboard and take the bombs with diving gear, get over the cable and drop it on the cable and then blow it up. There's a lot of things they could do. They can put 12-hour detonations, timers on the bombs, and they could go back and fish and then go bring the boat into port like nothing ever happened, and then in the middle of the night, boom, 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 the cables are all blown up in 3-4 different places. Each place may be 10, 15 miles away from the other. So they won't even know where the cables got blown up, and then they'd have to repair 10, 15, or 20 miles of cable, or, take months. At the same time, BRICS is getting ready to start their trading amongst the other BRIC nations using their, what they call as a gold-backed currency. And Putin has said that they will have a system like SWIFT to do the transfers from one country to another. It probably has that already figured out or built. It's not that hard to build it. You can build it with a cable is more secure because you can't hack into a cable easily or at all. The SWIFT system, basically you have a machine, okay, that does the transactions. The machine has to hook up to a cable that connects to the SWIFT system. Now, it's heavily encrypted, but you can't sit on a home computer and hack into the system and start doing money transfers because the physical device is not being recognized. Could they spoof the physical device? Well, anything's possible, but it doesn't happen. So probably the device is being read constantly by the SWIFT system in a way that is probably extremely difficult to reproduce or mimic or make a copy of. So you not only need to break the encryption, you need to have the physical device to send and receive. And the system may constantly be communicating every few seconds with the device to make sure it's dealing with a legit device. I don't know that much about it. They're not very public about what they do, but that's the general drift of it. But the thing to glean from it is their security measures have worked for many, many years. It appears without the physical device, you're going to get nowhere. Now, the encryption codes they use may occupy a big piece of legal paper. You know, it might be, 1,500 or probably more like 3,500, numbers and letters and stuff like that. And multiple amount of such codes are needed to conduct the transactions, so how do you hack that? I mean, computers are fast, but the computers that the hackers have are probably not fast enough to take care of codes that are 3,000 or 5,000 characters or even 10,000 characters. They can make it as big as they want. How are you going to do that? It's going to take you days and weeks. And, probably after 3 or 4 or 5 attempts with a bad password or a bad code, you get blocked out and you got to start all over again. Anyway, whatever they do, it works, okay? So, would Putin and BRICS, which Iran is in and China is in, like to see the SWIFT system get crippled right about the same time they break out their system? You bet. A great way to make war on the United States is the de-dollarization, which BRICS has done to some extent, because the trades amongst BRICS don't use the dollars. And Saudi Arabia just took the oil price, or the selling of oil, off the dollar, and the euro. America can't afford to have that. And in the past, America has gone to war for attempts at this type of thing. Okay? So America, you better believe, is desperately trying to put an end to this. If the cables get cut, it does not mean that Europe and America are going to fall. It means there's going to be a lot of problems for a while. The only thing America really fears is falling militaristically. That is fatal for them. The cables don't accomplish that. They'll take the hit. A diplomatic solution with Hezbollah isn't really satisfactory, because as soon as America goes after Iran, the diplomatic solution goes out of the window, and then Hezbollah starts launching against Israel. So, there could, I'm going to start developing this with you. I'm not 100% on this, okay? But it looks that way, and we'll examine it together right about now. It looks like there's going to be a ceasefire. With Hamas, maybe. If Hamas goes to ceasefire, then the Houthis might stop and Lebanon might stop. This is what America's been pushing against Israel for a long time now, is to just leave Gaza. Netanyahu hasn't wanted to do that. The tensions are on right now because whatever's left of Hamas, which is probably down to 10%, is about to be over. And Iran loses a precious piece of its proxy network. So I think America's woken up. The rude awakening is coming mostly from the Houthis. And they realize if they do nothing, Iran will run the Middle East. And when Iran runs the Middle East, there's no bases in Iraq, Syria, or Jordan, or any place else. Saudi Arabia. And Iran will have control of these countries and stop oil sales to Europe and America and other countries as they see fit. They'll sell oil at favorable prices to their allies, and they'll sell oil to the other countries at double or triple the price, or quadruple, collapsing their economies, which is what America tried to do now with sanctions. To get there, they have to make Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan extremely scared enough to submit to Iran and let Iran call the shots. So they would all start by saying, oh, we're going to cut our oil production down by 20%. 6 or 8 weeks later, another 20%. 6 or 8 weeks later, another 20%. Now, at the pump in America, you're probably paying $8 or $10 or $12 a gallon. People can't go to work. Everything moves by truck or train, which uses fuel. Inflation will probably kick up 25%. Aircraft, flying on planes, let's say you go to Miami, New York to Miami round trip, I don't know, maybe it's $300. Try 1,000. Airlines will start caving in. People will only want to buy cars that are extremely low on fuel consumption. SUVs, pickups, and the like will plummet in value. New car sales will nosedive. People won't want to buy these cars anymore. They'll want to get rid of the ones they have. People will try to adapt with carpools and stuff like that, but it's going to cripple. Home heating oil, What do you do in the winter if, somebody that lives in a house with a $900 or $1,200 mortgage payment is paying $900 or $1,200 for home heating oil? In addition to their mortgage, they're going to be gone. Venezuela, which is a big oil producer, is on board with Russia and Iran and China. It'll be horrendous. So, I think they're going to hit Iran pretty soon, America and their allies. But they want to take care of Lebanon first. They don't want to see Israel get destroyed. They don't know what God will do if this begins. America and their allies don't want to see Israel take more land back. They're going to do anything they can to stop Israel from moving Israeli settlers into Gaza and living there. Satan doesn't want this. Saudi Arabia, out of fear of Iran and the Houthis, didn't renew their defense agreement with America, which expired June 9th. And they are no longer selling oil on, getting paid in dollars or euros. This was because they didn't know what Biden would do if the Houthis started another war with Saudi Arabia, which happened in the past. All Saudi Arabia wants to do is have the royal family live in the lap of luxury. The people live moderately, low crime, decent food, air conditioning, heat, electricity, stuff like that. They have a reasonable amount of military, but not much good. They hire mercenaries, They're not warriors. They're soft, just like Oman. Qatar and Bahrain don't have any military to speak of, neither does Kuwait. Saddam Hussein conquered Kuwait in, a day or two or three, something really fast. It wasn't hard. Iran could just travel around knocking these countries off as they see fit if there was no America. America hitting Iran precludes the need to hit the Houthis, because if you take Iran out, the Houthis are going to dry up. Hitting the Houthis could be more complicated than hitting Iran because of their tunnels and underground network and rough terrain and size. Why bother? Because if you knock out the Houthis, you still have to contend with Iran. But if you knock out Iran, you don't have to contend with the Houthis, nor do you have to contend with Lebanon. Without Iran, Lebanon's going to realize nobody's going to come save the day for them. They're not going to like that. The Hezbollah will get genuinely scared. And the Houthis as well. And they lost their jobs. They're not getting money from Iran. They're not getting weapons from Iran. They're getting nothing from Iran. Iran is gone. As America sees it, then they're back in control over the Middle East. Saudi Arabia will immediately sign a defense agreement with America and go back to selling oil on the dollar and the euro. And the other countries won't stop doing it. They'll keep taking dollars and euros. BRICS will suffer a great blow. So they may not wait 5 weeks before they attack Lebanon. An attack on Iran, in the minds of America and Israel, would mandate an attack on Israel from Lebanon. But it looks like that's going to happen anyway. Let me read you the scripture for Iran, which I've done a few times in the last few days. It's relatively unknown scripture in that I don't see people talking about it. Let me find it. Jeremiah 49, oh, I don't know, it's 6 or 7 verses. Before we get into the Iran thing, we see in verse Jeremiah 40:39, flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O ye inhabitants of Hazor, saith Jehovah. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath taken counsel against you, and hath conceived a purpose against you. Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith Jehovah, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwell alone. And their camels shall be a booty, and the multitude of their cattle a spoil. And I will scatter into all winds, them that are in the utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides. Therefore, saith Jehovah. And Hazor shall be a dwelling for dragons, and a desolation forever. There shall no man abide there, nor any son of man dwell there. Now, Hazor is, there was 2 cities, one in Israel where Naphtali, the tribe, lived, and it's very unlikely that this is this, because it's showing Jehovah opposed to it. There was another Hazor in Saudi Arabia, which is called Arabia in the Bible. Let me see if I could get a map of that. Hang on. Doesn't tell us much. Most of the maps are showing the one in Israel. That's typical for the churchianity publishing houses. Let's see, we'll find one. I better specify in Arabia or it will keep giving me the Israeli one. It's definitely not speaking about Israel as far as I can tell. Even though I'm specifying, it's still coming up with the Israel cities. but Strong says it's also a city in Arabia. And Strong's is usually relatively reliable. It makes no sense to be a city in Israel. Maybe I can get there this way. Hold on. The present day Hadar in Israel is like a public monument, like a park. It really makes no sense. Joshua conquered Hazor. We don't read about Nebuchadnezzar or Babylon doing it. See, they keep the truth from you. And notice that after Jeremiah 49 comes Jeremiah 50:51, which is the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. So I would say it's the one in Arabia. Okay. And it says, and their camels shall be a booty. Well, they got all kinds of camels in Saudi Arabia. They race them like America has horse races. They have camel races there. And the rich sheiks and the princes and stuff buy these real expensive camels. You could probably buy camels for millions of dollars that run real good. And the multitude of their cattle was spoiled. They got a lot of cattle there. And they're anti-Israel. They're constantly, oh, we want a two-state solution, which means divide Israel, give it to the Palestinians so they have the West Bank and East Jerusalem, so you have no chance of putting a temple there, and they can kill you. And that's their position. It says, arise, get you up onto the wealthy nation. Israel's not a wealthy nation. Saudi Arabia is. That dwell without care. That's them. Saith Jehovah, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwelleth alone. That's Saudi Arabia. They're pretty much alone, and they don't have all these gates and bars and walls. Verse 30, flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O you inhabitants of Hazor, saith Jehovah, for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath taken counsel against you, and hath concerned a purpose against you. Well, in Jeremiah 50:51, the President of the United States is referred to as this Nebuchadnezzar, and the daughter of Babylon, America, is referred to as Babylon. Babel is the Hebrew word, means confusion. Now, do you think Biden's happy Saudi Arabia did not renew their mutual defense treaty with Israel, and they are not renewing the petrodollar treaty where they're going to sell oil for dollars and they're not taking euros or dollars for oil anymore? You think Biden is not plotting against Saudi Arabia now? All the indications are Saudi Arabia. Who's going to do Saudi Arabia? Let's see if we can. I didn't realize this was there until just now. Who's going to do Saudi Arabia? Let's see if we get any indication. If their camels are a booty, they're getting invaded. and their cattle are spoiled. And they get scattered into all the winds, that means they're going into captivity or running away to other countries that are in the utmost corners. That means they're going to go all over the place. I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof, saith Jehovah. They're going to get it from all sides. Now, could I come up with a likely explanation for this? Yes, I can. It's a little, it may get some of you a little nervous, but I can't come up with it. The Houthis have been collecting terrorist lunatics from other countries for months now. The Houthis were at start 167,000 terrorist lunatics. And the Yemen regular army, which is completely on their side, 30-something thousand, that's 200,000. They say they picked up another 200,000 or 300,000 terrorists from all over the world that are going over there to fight. Probably getting a payroll check from Iran, giving money to the Houthis to pay them. Or some say it's pronounced the Houthis, whatever, you know who they are. They say that they want to come up to go to Gaza and help Hamas repel Israel and save Gaza. Well, if they're going to save Gaza, they better do it in the next 10 or 15 days at most. Let's get a map and see what route they could use to do this. To avoid having ship transit to cross over to Africa from their side of the Red Sea, they would have to traverse hundreds of miles through Saudi Arabia. From Saudi Arabia, they would have to cross a very small body of water to get over to the Sinai Peninsula, and then from there get into Gaza. This means that Saudi Arabia has to be in agreement with them. And it appears that Saudi Arabia, out of fear of relying on America, has probably created a secret deal with Iran. Which means the Houthis won't fight against Saudi Arabia. In the last year or so, year and a half, the Houthis have attacked Aramco oil refinery, which is Saudi's biggest oil refinery, on 2 different occasions with very light missile attacks, shutting the refinery down for some, no, the first time days, the second time I think it was more than 1 missile, and it was shut for a few weeks. So the Saudis are scared of a war with the Houthis. To get America on their side, they would have to do an Abrahamic Accords with Israel, which they don't want to do. And they're not sure if that's the right side to be on. They decided to be with Iran, obviously. America's been not attacking the Houthis significantly. So if the Houthis deploy 150 or 250 soldiers and come into Saudi Arabia, what are the Americans going to do? That's what the Saudis are saying. They're going to do nothing. And they got to have a bloody, gruesome war, and they could lose. And then they're going to have to flee Saudi Arabia, give up the family grocery store, so to speak, and go live in Switzerland or someplace and just forget about it, and then their life wouldn't be worth a nickel. Or they could go hire hundreds of bodyguards and buy estates on mountaintops, but sooner or later they're going to get assassinated or kidnapped, held for ransom, robbed, plundered, pillared. They need a country. They need their own country with an Air Force and Navy soldiers to protect them. But they're basically dumbbells. Let's not kid ourselves. Have you ever seen Saudi Arabians win a Nobel Prize for anything? No. What are they good at? They're good at going into a store and finding the finest fabrics for clothing. The best fabric for a bed sheet, cheap. The best perfumes and colognes. The best wristwatches. The best automobiles, private jets, yachts, furniture. That's all they know how to do. It's consumer shopping for the very best things in the world to cater to their flesh. That's it. How do they run they hire foreigners with intelligence and educations, and they use them to run the oil refineries, and they use them for the military. They hire mercenaries and things like that. Many of the Saudi royal family are the pilots. They don't trust the working class to have planes that could be turned against the Saudis, so they use members of the family. And it was the case some years ago, this could have changed, that they didn't fly at night because these morons in the Saudi royal family couldn't operate on instruments. They had to use visibility. That's how dumb they are. They couldn't operate their own submarines. They had to have foreign mercenaries operate the submarines. They'd be the captain in charge of the submarine. They'd have a number of the Saudis as crew, but the real running of the submarine would be, foreigners that they hired from militaries in other countries. Rest assured, these people care about sitting around, having the best of everything, and that's it. Lavishing themselves. They're idiots. They like hunting with falcons and hawks and racing camels, and they race horses, and they buy prize steer and all that, bulls and all this stuff. And they got yachts the size of cruise ships and mansions of 100,000 square feet and multiple mansions and all. That's all they are. If you had a lot of money and you wanted to go shopping, would you do well to take a Saudi prince as your shopping guide? You probably wouldn't be able to get a better shopping guide. They're great for that. Do they make goods and sell them? They make nothing. You ever see a Saudi TV set or a washing machine or a car or a gun or an airplane or anything? They make nothing. They have foreign workers come there and pump oil out of the ground and they sell it. They can't do nothing. Their time is up. They've been opposed to Israel all the time. And that's it for them. It's in there. Since Israel's a nation in 1948, it hasn't happened. It's going to happen. Look up camel racing in Saudi Arabia. They're real high on that. You know, camels can outrun racehorses for much greater distances and short distances too. They could run faster than racehorses, and for short distances, when the racehorse burns out, the camel keeps going at the same high speed. They're much better than horses. And we'll have them again, you'll see. We'll have the double humpers and the single humpers. The double humpers can store more food and water and stay out in the desert a lot longer than the single humpers, but they're both pretty good at it, and they're both a lot of fun. If a camel gets ticked off at you, he's so strong. I've seen pictures of him grabbing a guy by the shoulder and throwing him, a full-grown male. And if they give you a kick, good night. They're not really hunted by predators. Now, if we want to play games, could a 1,200-pound grizzly bear take out a camel? Probably. But you're going to spend decades looking for a 1,200-pound grizzly bear in the desert. You ain't going to find one. But I think the camel may hurt the grizzly bear with a kick, and what would in reality happen, and the camel would just run away from the thing. He saw a 1,200-pound bear acting aggressively. He'd probably scratch his head and say, you know, he wouldn't say, give me a Clark bar. He'd say, I better get out of town and take off. He wouldn't know what he's dealing with, right? Now, if a pack of 8 or 10 wolves decided to take him down, he'd be in a lot of trouble. But he would start fighting the wolves and probably deter any further attacks. Like, he could kick wolves, grab them by the scruff of the neck and fling them. And, you know, they'd probably say, well, this is not a good game animal. Let's go find ourselves a sheep or something, you know. You know, if you got, you know, desert animals that, you know, attack prey animals, they're not, you know, there might be wolf, coyote, or something like that, or something that size, it's not going to have any effect on a camel. And if you got a group of camels together, good night, you know, they'll really wreck the predators, you know. I don't think a mountain lion could do anything to, which is normally maxed at about 125 pounds. Now, you don't want to get in a fight with one of those. Those things could really hurt you. But they're easy to kill with a gun. A 357, one shot in the abdomen usually smokes them. They're not that hard to kill. Spears would probably be very similar with a sword. They're easily killed. They're not, you know, like fighting a female African lion at 350 pounds, where she could smack you in the head and, you know, kill you, knock your head off or something. That's a horse of another color. That's really a tough kill, you know. A male lion at 450 pounds is even worse. They can pick up a full-grown cow and jump a 6-foot fence or scale a 6-foot fence holding the thing in its mouth. These things are ferocious. You know, a guy I know was in Africa watching this stuff, and he saw there was a crocodile in the water, you know, just with the eyes sticking up, waiting for one of the lions to go over there and drink, like a baby lion or some unsuspecting lion, drink water and then try to grab it and pull it into the water. Crocodiles don't engage an animal if you're, well, I would say even as little as 5 or 6 feet from the water's edge, they wouldn't engage a lion. Because they wouldn't think they could drag it back into the water, and on the ground they're going to have a bad fight and lose, or get really hurt. And getting hurt in the wilderness as a predator means you're likely to die, and they know that. But if it's at the water's edge, jumps up and pulls it in the water and then starts spinning around, disorienting it and drowning it. That's what it would do. So the female lion goes to the male lion and goes, you know, like telling him, we got trouble with this crocodile, help us out. So the male lion goes to the water and takes his paw without putting it in the water, taps the surface of the water a few times, knowing what the crocodile is going to do, and he's tapping it. He's standing on dry land right at the water's edge, but he makes sure he's got firm footing. Now, even if the lion goes in the water, and it might be even a foot deep in the water, he's still got firm footing. But if he goes in over his shoulders or something like that. He's in bad shape. But this guy was on dry land. So he's patting the water, and the crocodile comes over there to attack, and at blazing lightning speed, he bites down on the, the back of the head or the neck of the crocodile, and just flips the thing out of the water on dry land and dispatches it. And this was a really big croc, like, 8 or 10 foot croc. He had no trouble grabbing it and just flipping it out of the water. Now, could something like this attack a camel and kill it? I don't think it would want to try unless it was starving, because the camel's up really high. It's a big thing, and its neck is very high off the ground, and that's where the lion's going to want to hit, is the neck or the spine, and mostly the neck, and it can't really access it. Hitting the legs is probably going to get the lion killed with superficial wounds to the camel. He's not going to be able to just bite down and break a camel's leg bone. The camel's huge, and if he tries to hang on to the leg bone, the camel could kick him with his other feet or shake him off, and So, if he went all out and the camel kicked him, with a hoof like this, the lion's finished. Bones will break, internal bleeding. He's had it. Now, they attack giraffes, which could be even worse, but they usually do that in a pack, and they're not always successful. Usually there's a baby giraffe around or something. But anyway, the camels are a very, very versatile animal, just in passing, because we'll have them pretty soon. They do have an odor. So do horses, so do elephants. They all have an odor. And they, if you get them mad, not like they're going to attack you, you're just irritating them like you're the owner and you're not being nice to them or something like that, they'll spit at you, which is not the end of the world. You wash it off. For them to attack you, they would really have to feel that your behavior wasn't irritating to them, that your behavior was a threat to their well-being. Then they would bite you or flip you and throw you up. Their real way of killing you is with their hoofs. And you also got to remember, they could outrun a lion easily, without much trouble. So they smell the lion, they hear the lion, they see the lion. They could try to scare the lion off, and if not, just take off. The lion can't keep up. No, not even a race. A cheetah could nail them, maybe. A cheetah can go tremendously fast for short distances. Camels can outrun a racehorse, like go 30, 35 miles an hour, stuff like that, for long distances. So the cheetah can't. And the cheetah's too small to take on a camel. You wouldn't even try it. It'd be suicide move, But they don't really have predators to really, you could always find a lunatic animal somewhere that might try to attack them, but they don't really have predators out there in the desert. And they know it. That's why they lay down when they go to sleep. And usually they'll be in groups, people traveling. They might have 4, 5, 6 camels together. They don't tend to fight with each other. They have their own pecking order and all the other things that a beast is going to establish, but they're not too big on going around trying to bust each other up. They don't usually do that. They're pretty sedate critters, and they're very useful for carrying loads, in towns or villages, and traveling with them, using them for transportation and stuff like that. I don't know much about baby camels, but they're probably a lot of fun, but I don't really know. My mother used to take me to the Bronx Zoo as a kid, and they had a camel ride I used to like. You walked up some steps to a platform, and they had a camel with a saddle. And a guy very carefully put a few kids on each side, I think 3 kids, and they strapped you in. You were way up high. And then he would hold the lead and walk the camel around a track that was maybe an eighth or a tenth of a mile, probably an eighth of a mile. It was a good sized track. Then brought you back to the platform and you got off. I used to like the camels. You know. They're pretty easygoing critters, really. If you got them and you're nice to them and you pet them and you talk to them and you play with them and spend time with them and let them know you care about them and give them treats and stuff like that, they'd be pretty friendly to you. Probably a lot like a horse, you know. And if you're going to be an idiot and yell at them and scream at them and hit them, and, you know, they're going to spit at you and stuff, you know. If you hit them, you're not going to hurt them, you know. They'll spit at you. They might kick you, you know, like a horse might, you know. So anyway, let's get back into Jeremiah. Enough on the camel. So that sure is a descriptor of Saudi Arabia to me. So, now we're in Jeremiah 49:34. The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, okay, the prophecy came during the reign of Zedekiah. It's not necessarily for that time. That's when he received the prophetic word from Jehovah. Got it? Okay, Elam. What is Elam? Today it's South Iran, northeast Syria, and parts of Iraq. That's the coalition of evil against American bases and consulates in Iraq and Syria. Is it not? It is. It is. On a silver platter. Let's keep going. Verse 35. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, behold, I will break the bow of Elam. Now, what do you do with the bow? You take your arrows and you shoot your arrow. You deliver your weapon. If I was going to push it, I would say missile launchers, but that's pushing it really hard. The war tools, the war weapons. The bow is break the war weapons of Elam. Okay? The chief of their might. I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Break. What does break mean? Strong's number in the Hebrew, 7665. Shabar. Break in pieces. Rend violently, wreck, crush. Let's see how Strong's puts it in English. She usually does a better job. Let's see. Where are you, Strong? I lost you. There you are. To burst. To break in pieces. Broken. Bring to the birth. Crush. Destroy. Hurt. Okay. So who is, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. The bow, the weapon of Elam, is the chief of their might. What is the word for might? Strength. Okay. Who just got killed in the Iranian government in a helicopter crash a few weeks ago? His name was Raisi, the president of Iran for many, many years, who was in charge of all these wars. And he was the one that was behind the attack against Israel with all those missiles and drones some weeks ago. Was him. Right after that, he got killed in a helicopter crash. He got sabotaged, shot down, or there was a sabotage explosive in the helicopter. He got killed. Okay? So, I give you on a silver platter. Did that not just happen? I will break the bow of Elam. He was the bow of Iran, of Elam. Iraq doesn't run Iran. Iran runs Iraq. Syria doesn't run Iran. Iran runs Iraq. Who ran Iran? The president, Raisi. What about the mullah? The mullah is more of a spiritual head. Raisi was the bow, the warrior guy. He just got whacked. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So he's going to scatter them with the winds to go to all the different countries. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean it's a war, but I would think it does. Could he send winds in there or storms to destroy the country so they all have to leave? It doesn't lend itself to it. The result of what's going to happen is going to be going to be scattered like from the four winds. It's an allegory. It's not a literalization. Like the seed of Abraham, you know, a little seed that people put in the ground. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what I think. Whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. They're going to scatter all around the world. They've been so bad and so mean to Israel and so non-fearful of Jehovah and against him and pro-Satan that this is their fate. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemy. Dismayed is... what is Storm saying? Prostrate, broken down. In other words, they're going to hit the floor before their enemies and before them that seek their life. And I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah. And I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. Okay, it's war that gets them, not a windstorm. And it says consume them. That's 3615, Strong's number in the Hebrew, Koah. And yeah, that's, you know, bring to an end. And I will set my throne in Elam. That means he's going to judge them. He judges by, when he's on his throne, he judges. So he's not moving to Elam, okay? He's going to judge him is what it means. And will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. Well, the Saudis certainly, of the Iranians, now we're on the Iranians, the king and the priests as well. They got the king, which could be the mullah or the president, probably the mullah, because he really doesn't get elected. And the princes, you know, that's the big shots in the government, the wealthy people that own the big companies, usually stuff like that. But it shall come to pass in the latter days, while we're there, that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. Okay. Now this is talking the latter days. You know, there's a lot of time left. This is fulfilled when he says, you know, there shall be the three, Egypt, Assyria, and my firstborn Israel. They're all going to serve the Lord. And that's going to happen probably between now and Gog and Magog. So they'll come back. Egypt goes on a 40-year captivity, but till you get to Gog and Magog, it's over in 70 years from the time of the appearing of the Son of Man. But it's 60-something years or so. So there's plenty of time for that to happen. Okay? They'll come back as part of Assyria, not Syria, Assyria, and serve the Lord. That's in the scripture. So we know Iran's going to get it. We know Saudi's going to get it. And now we see the pieces of the puzzle coming together quite clearly. And I'm detecting a change in the way the Lord's dealing with Israel. Not the evil ones. No, not for them. But for the others. The evil ones are not repenting. If they repented and stopped doing evil, yeah, it would work for them, but they're not. I'll be back in a second. Oh, a minute or so. You know that if you happen to have land in the near future and you decide you're going to grow sheep or breed sheep, and you get a donkey, not a mule, a donkey. A mule is mixing the animals, and you shouldn't do that. It's against the law. If you get a donkey, donkeys are pretty darn smart. More so than a lot of dogs. And a donkey is got a lot of strength and energy. He's got excellent eyesight, excellent hearing, and he smells. I mean, he has a sense. Of course, he smells, but he has a good sense of smell. And in Israel, your predators that would come around threatening your sheep would probably be a coyote or a wolf or something like that. Okay? It's not going to be a 450-pound African lion or, you know, a 750-pound tiger or even a 300 or 400-pound smaller tiger. It's going to be the coyotes and the wolves. And donkeys have a innate dislike for dogs. So if you had a poodle or something and it was out in the field with the donkey would not like the dog and would try to get the dog out of there. He wouldn't necessarily kill it. He'd make sure the thing stayed away from him pretty darn far. So if you have a field where you put sheep in with a gate, the gate is more than likely going to stop the donkey. They don't like jumping over fences or climbing over fences or anything like that. They don't care about sheep at all. The only problem you might have with the sheep is the sheep gives birth. I think you call it the ewe, E-W-E. The female sheep gives birth, and all of a sudden the baby sheep pops out, and the donkey says, "Where the heck did he come from? What is this?" And thinks it might be some sort of a threat, and could go over and maybe get a little aggressive towards the baby sheep. So you'd probably want to keep the mother and the baby away from the donkey till the sheep was able to run around better and stuff like that, and then looks and smells and acts more like another sheep. So if you put, let's say you had, 3, 4, 6, 800 sheep, and you put a handful of donkeys in there with them for grazing, they don't fight with the sheep. It's like wildebeests and zebras eat grass next, a foot away from each other. They don't fight. So it would be like that, The donkey knows well that the sheep's not attacking him, and he doesn't care to eat the sheep. He wants his grass and his grain, and that's that. You need to keep the field open so the donkey has good vision. He could see what's going on, and he could smell and hear. And some predators come around, the donkey will go after him. And they try to pick him up by the scruff of the neck and hold him and kick him with their front legs, which is most unpleasant for a predator. The donkey's got a big hoof, like brass knuckles on steroids. They have a habit of not killing the predator. They just give it a heck of a beating, a real beating. And if the predator can, he'll run away after that. If he can't, then the donkey may just stomp him to death, or maybe just leave him there, but probably stomp him out. But they normally don't do that. They just give him a really good beating and tell him not to come back, and then the predators say, well, attacking these sheep is a pretty stupid idea. Let's go find a better meal, easier, and they go away. Now, if you got 3 or 4 predators coming, you got one donkey, it makes it hard on the donkey. But if you got 3 or 4 donkeys, well, they'll play in a team to a good extent. Maybe not as well as a pack of dogs, but enough. And predators will probably take off when they see the donkeys barreling down at them. They don't want that. The donkeys look huge to him. And the donkeys hee-haw, they scream. And predators have enough brains to understand, gee, this is not a prey animal, he's pretty big. He's coming at me and he's yelling and screaming at me. This is not good. I better get out of here. That's a real likely outcome. There's no chance a donkey's going to mate with sheep. That's never going to happen. They don't have aggression. They hang out together, and the sheep will, make noise once they smell a predator. They start, making noise and running in the other direction, and the donkey will pick up on that hands down. And instead of running away from the predator, the donkey's going to run at the predator to kill it and beat it up. So that's an interesting thing. Goats is another thing, but I think the male goats can take care of themselves against a lot of predators. A full-grown male goat, it just bears down and charges the thing with its horns. And these small, like a lion or something, won't have any problem, but a smaller predator like a coyote or even a wolf may, now if you had a 160-pound timber wolf, he might be able to handle the goat, I guess, but you usually don't see that around here. You'd see smaller wolves, much smaller. He's gonna say, well, the goat looks like he's good to eat, but this sucker ain't running away from me. He's charging me, trying to hit me with his horns. That's not good. They don't like that. They don't want that. They want to see an animal that just runs away and they can't really defend themselves. So, they probably, if you started trying to pick off, a couple hundred goats, it could have a lot of problems with the male goats deciding they want to kill this thing. And once they set their mind to it, they won't stop. They'll keep ramming this thing. Okay, let's go back up in Jeremiah 40. There's a part where it says Nebuchadnezzar goes after Elam. I want to show you that. Of course, the Nebuchadnezzar in old-time Babylon never did go after Elam. So it's the future, and in Jeremiah 50:51, the Bible refers to as the head of the United States as this Nebuchadnezzar, which, if it happened today, would be Biden. Okay, I'm going to go through this and find it for you. It's in 49, I believe. It starts out with Jeremiah 49:1, concerning the Ammonites, which is Jordan. Thus saith Jehovah, hath Israel no sons? Hath he no heir? Why then doth their king inherit Gad, and his people dwell in his cities? Gad is, where is that located? I'm not sure. Let me look it up. I think it's in Israel. I don't know, but let's see. See, they tell you what the tribes of Gad. I don't know. It says it's someplace in Israel based on the tribe of Gad. I guess so. I don't know. All right. Let me go back. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will cause an alarm of war to be heard in Rabbah of the Ammonites, that's Jordan, and it shall be desolate, a desolate heap, and her daughters shall be burned with fire. Then shall Israel be heir unto them that were his heirs, saith the Lord. So Israel serves them, I guess this is saying. This would be the past, I believe. How, O Heshbon? Heshbon, I think, is Jordan. Let's check. Jordan. Which Ammon is Jordan too, basically, northern Jordan. How you, O Heshbon, for I is spoiled, that's Jordan, I believe. Cry, you daughters of Rabbah, Jordan. Gird you with sackcloth, lament, and run to and fro by the hedges, for their king shall go into captivity, and his priests and his princes together. Wherefore, glorious thou in the valleys, thy flowing valley, O backsliding daughter that trusted in her treasures, saying, who shall come unto me? Behold, I will bring a fear upon thee, saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah, of armies from all those that be about thee, and you shall be driven out, every man. Right forth none shall gather up him that wandereth. Okay, this is past. And afterward I will bring again the captivity of the children of Ammon, saith Jehovah. Concerning Edom, now Edom can be in northwest Saudi Arabia. Concerning Edom, it may not be in Jordan. People go both ways on this. Concerning Edom, thus saith Jehovah of armies, is wisdom no more in Taman, that's Yemen usually, it means the south, it could be Saudi Arabia, it could be Yemen. Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee you, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitant of Eden. That's Saudi Arabia, that's the south. For I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. Well, okay, we covered this, it's in another place in this chapter. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. That would be Edom and possibly Jordan. Leave thy fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. For thus saith Jehovah, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. That's the cup of the wrath of the Lord, which makes them crazy and generally get destroyed. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith Jehovah, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. So that's Bozrah, which means sheepfold, and that's in Edom, which could be the top of Saudi Arabia or Jordan. Or maybe it's an overflow or something. Ammon is northern Jordan, Moab would be central Jordan, it gets destroyed too, and Edom could be South Jordan or in Saudi Arabia, or maybe there's an overlap. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather you together and come against her, and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thy heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, though thou shouldst make the nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord. Also Edom shall be a desolation, every one that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Jehovah. No man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Okay. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the inhabitants of the strong, but I will suddenly make him run away from her. And who is like me, and who will appoint me the time, and who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Probably one of the two witnesses. Therefore hear the counsel of Jehovah that he hath taken against Edom, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall. At the cry of the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. Behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle, and spread his wings over Bozrah. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. That kind of points me to the birth pangs a little bit. Concerning Damascus, that's in Syria, Hamath is confounded and Arpad, for they have heard evil tidings. They are faint-hearted. There is sorrow on the sea. It cannot be quiet. Damascus is waxed feeble and turneth herself to flee. Well, she's going to run away. And fear shall fear hath seized on her. Anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in travail. Again, it points me to the birth pangs. How is the city of praise not left, the city of my joy? And that would be Jerusalem. Therefore her young men shall fall in her streets, and all men of war shall be as cut off in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts. And I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus. Where is this going? Oh, David used to rule out of Damascus. King David. That's probably what this is. And will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus, and it shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. Concerning Kedar, and concerning the kingdom of Hazor. So Kedar is the son of Ishmael, so it's probably Jordan. Let's see. Probably Jordan. And the kingdom of Hazor, I believe that's Jordan, right? Oh no, that could also be Saudi Arabia, yeah. Which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, shall smite. So Hazor is in Saudi Arabia. Now, let's read this slow. Concerning Kedar and concerning the kingdom of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, shall smite, thus saith Jehovah, arise, you go up to Kedar, and spoil the men of the east. Let's see where Kedar really is, okay? It's Arabia, Saudi Arabia. See, Saudi is the name of the family. So when they say Saudi Arabia, it means the Arabia that the Saudi family owns. The Bible calls it Arabia, but they got the guts to go out and say it's their family's country. Idiots. Oh, I lost one verse. Great. So we're in Jeremiah 49:28. Concerning Kedar and concerning the kingdom of Hazor, that's Saudi Arabia, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, shall smite. That, you see, historically that didn't happen. So it's referencing in the next two chapters the head of the United States, the daughter of Babylon, is referred to as this Nebuchadnezzar. That's the best explanation I have for this. Shall smite, thus saith the Lord, arise you, go up to Kedar, and spoil the men of the east. Their tents and their flocks shall they take away. They shall take to themselves their curtain and all their vessels and the camels, and they shall cry unto them, fears on every side. So we see, so it appears that America takes them out. Flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O you inhabitants of Hazor, saith Jehovah, for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath taken counsel against you, and hath conceived a purpose against you. Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation, and then do a couple things. So it appears America is going to do Saudi Arabia and Iran. And the behavior of Saudi Arabia in the last few days certainly indicates that this is coming. All right, let me check the chat and see what garbage needs to be thrown out. The reason they got thrown to many countries is it was the 2,000-year punishment from God, as found in Hosea chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, for killing the Messiah. They got sent to all the different countries, and then they would get kicked out of country after country. Okay? And the time is up for that. And what you also need to learn is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 11, which is tied right in there with Jacob's trouble, which is the birth pangs, which is Zechariah 12, not Gog and Magog. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So all these missile and rocket attacks is still our punishment, but it's also the year of recompenses, and the nations are suffering. Gaza is a complete ruinous heap, as Damascus will soon be. But the nations are going to get it back now that the 2,000 years is over, or it will be any day now or something. They're getting punished for the way they treated the Israelites. So you need to know that. And if you think that's just an obscure scripture, it actually appears someplace else in the Bible. Jeremiah 46, verse 28. Fear thou not, O Yaakov, my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all the nations whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. So he drove us into these nations. It is God who says himself in the Bible in more than one place that he stopped up the ears and closed the eyes of the Israelites lest they turn to him and be healed. This was so the punishment for killing the Messiah will come to its fullness of 2,000 years, and then we get a double blessing. And time's just about up on that. So you have to look at the whole picture. You can't just be anti-Israel and say, why did they get driven out? They're just such rotten, stinking people. You know, that's not biblical. That's the Jew hater philosophy, okay? So if you're going to follow the Bible, follow the Bible. Who's the king of Israel? A Jew named Jesus, Yeshua. It's his real name. Who's the high priest in the order of Melchizedek? Yeshua. A Jew from the tribe of Judah. What about all the apostles were Jews? What about the prophets were Jews? What about Moses and Aaron? Come on. You want to be a believer and not like the Jews? You're going to have to find a different Bible to do that. So let's go to Malachi 3 and try to come up with some answers here. Behold, I will send my messenger Malach, which Malachi is the English for Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. Now, Elijah will prepare the way before Yeshua comes. John the Baptist with the spirit of Elijah did that in that day, like 2,000 years ago roughly. And the real Elijah will do that again in these days. And that means he's going to be around until just before Yeshua returns. It's going to be a long time. The way before me, he'll be one of the judges of Israel. Apostle John, the other witness, will be the other judge. And the Lord whom you seek shall, now the Lord, it's Adonai. That's the glory of God of Israel that will inhabit the next temple. Not New Jerusalem, next temple, I know the difference. Whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. And the word for temple is Hekal. It's temple suddenly. Okay, suddenly is 6597 Pitom. It's suddenly, surprisingly suddenly, come to his temple. Even the messenger of the covenant, now it's back to Elijah, whom you delight in. They delight in him, they teach each other. He'll come and teach them the law, which he will. And they, for Passover, they set a place setting for him with a cup of wine and silverware. They have chairs with his name on them, some of them, and they leave the door open for him. This is all mythology, it's not in the Bible. They also say Elijah attends the circumcision of every Jewish boy, or every Jewish firstborn. I don't know what it is. It's not real, it's just they made it up. So they delight in Elijah is what it is. They do. Behold, he shall come. And I would read that, he shall come. Like, let my people go, something like that. Saith Jehovah of armies. But who may abide the day of his coming? Doom and gloom on the wicked. And who shall stand when he appeareth? Appeareth. What does that word mean? 7,200, Strong's number in the Hebrew. Ra'ah. To look at, to inspect, to see. What does Strong's do for English here? Let's see. Appear, when he starts appearing openly. And they can see him. For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. Because it says fire, one might think, the fire coming out of their mouth, but then it says soap, and they don't have soap coming out of their mouth. So it's an allegorical figure of speak here. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi. So those are the Levites of today. Sons means they descended from the original Levi. And purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. So he's going to purge the impurities out of the Levites. In other words, get them to walk with the Lord, follow the law, follow the commandments of Yeshua. Then the offerings will be acceptable unto the Lord because they're given by people that are walking with the Lord. Okay, not hypocrites and phonies and liars and all this stuff, Okay? So there's the temple and there's the offerings. Now, it's very possible that the offerings will begin, this is me talking, I'm not sure on this, that the offerings may begin with Elijah teaching Levites how to live right. This is not so much how to cut the throat of an animal and not make it not suffer. This is more about how you as Levites have to live, behave, relationship with Jehovah, relationship with each other, relationship with the people, your children, your families, your neighbors, everything. Okay? They've got to walk right with the Lord. That's what's going to do it. Just sacrificing good, biblically correct animals isn't going to do it. Because then there'll be hypocrites, liars, cheats, scoundrels, and God hates that. Okay? You got to understand that. That's what he's teaching them more than anything else. Then shall the offering of Judah, because that's the land we have now, Judah and Jerusalem Jerusalem's in Judah. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, when this happens, then the glory of God of Israel may appear and come into the temple. That's my thoughts on this. I don't think the glory of God of Israel is going to appear in the temple until the Levites are trained, because he would be insulted by them if they were not behaving correctly, and he may lash out at them. My thoughts. Probably right. And I will come near to you to judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the witches, adulterers, speaks for herself, false swearers, the ones that go lying in court and all that, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the big company owners that rip off the workers, the widow and the fatherless that take advantage of these people in court, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and from his right is added in, it's turn aside the stranger, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. For I am Jehovah, I change not. Therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers you are gone away from my ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of armies. But you said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even the whole nation. Bring you all the tithes unto the storehouse, that there may be meat in thy house, and prove me now wherewith, saith Jehovah of armies, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sake, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast a fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of armies. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah of armies. You know, we don't understand how nice it will be to live here in Israel. We might not have the so-called modern features, but we might. I don't know. I doubt there'll be an internet. That I think you could write off. And, phone conversations around the world, I don't think that'll happen. But, we might have electricity and different things. I don't know. But, the food's going to be great, the land's going to be great, the peace, the fellowship, it's going to be wonderful, but different. It's not going to be Satan's way. What the big cities and all the countries in the world now is show you Satan's ways. All kinds of distractions to get lost in. Bars, discos, hobbies, collect stamps, collect cars, all this waste of time stuff. It's all going to change. Everything will be focused around God and Yeshua. It's a be all different. And all nations shall call you blessed. See, they're not going to call us blessed unless we actually appear blessed. We don't have all the intimate little details, but it's going to be awfully great. Double portion. So we'll have it twice as good as they ever did in Israel in the past, under Solomon or David or something. Shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah of hosts. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against you? You have said it is vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinances, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of armies? And now we call the proud happy, yea, they that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that feared Jehovah spake often one to another, and Jehovah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Jehovah and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern, next great Exodus, and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. So, then we go to Malachi 4, verse 1. And for behold, the day cometh that shall burn like an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Okay, so that happens to them, and it could be God via the two witnesses or otherwise taking out the evil in Ezekiel 34, in Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9, where 2/3 of them in Israel are going to be cut off, but you've got to read the whole thing to get some understanding of it. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, that's called Haaretz, the land of Israel, saith Jehovah, 2/3, 2 parts, 2/3, therein shall be cut off and die, they're dead, the 2/3. But the third shall be left therein, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined. Well, this is what Elijah was just doing. We just read that, refining them as silver is refined, right? The third part. So the bad ones getting cut off could likely occur before Elijah is training the Levites. The wicked ones are gone. If they weren't gone, they wouldn't have let Elijah hang around and hold classes and the Levites and talk to them and teach them stuff and tell them his experiences, etc., right? They wouldn't be that interested in that. They'd be more the 2/3, the Netanyahu, the government, the blah, 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 military, would be trying to kill him. So it seems that there's somewhat relative peace going on while he's training the Levites. To me it does. I don't understand how he could be training the Levites and then all of a sudden he stops and said, hey, come on guys, bomb shelter, I hear missiles and rockets coming in, we got red alerts. See, does that make sense to you? That they're being trained while missiles and bombs and rockets are coming in and all? Nah, it doesn't make sense to me. That leads me to think there's some sort of a ceasefire, and I know we'll continue fighting the nations after the year of redemption in our new state, our everlasting life. We'll use sling stones, and, we'll be greatly victorious. So while redemption is taking place with the next great Exodus and all this, we'll also be fighting, I believe. So the destruction of these nations could be happening well into redemption. Israel got redeemed in Egypt, and then they went to the land and they started having fights later on, right? I mean, so could be. And I will bring the third part through the fire and refine them as gold and silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. So the big business owners, the rich ones, the Satan bots, the crazy ones following the unclean spirits, they'll be cut off. That's the 2/3. That's consistent with Ezekiel 34. So back to Malachi 4. Verse 2. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son, S-U-N, Shemish in Hebrew, of righteousness, that's Yeshua, arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. It really says frolic about like calves of the stall. So this is the Son, the Shemish of righteousness. This is the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds in the heavens. He appears as lightning from the east to the west, seated at the right hand of power. Everyone that sees him that's a believer is going to have everlasting life, which does not mean you can't die. It means you're going to live a very long time. My people's days shall be like that of a tree, which can go 2, 3, 4,000 years. Okay? The healing in his extremities, on the extremities of the robe or the tunic, the garment they wore, they put the tassels, the tzitzit. So that's what the woman grabbed with the issue of blood for 12 years. And Yeshua said he felt power go out and she got healed. And he told her, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's good, you got healed, I'm glad, That was based on this scripture so that people would know that the Yeshua on earth back then was the same Son of Righteousness appearing in Malachi 4:2. Because they were very well aware of that scripture, unlike the church today. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. That in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. So tread down the wicked because they're ashes, so they've gotten burned up. So Elijah and Apostle John may be doing this, or Jehovah might be. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant. That's the same law the church says is dead, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel. Now, if you're a believer in Yeshua, how the heck can you say you're not in Israel? There's 12 gates to New Jerusalem, each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel, made out of a giant pearl guarded by an angel. What gate do you think you're going to walk into New Jerusalem using if it's not one of the gates named after the 12 tribes? You got to be in one of those tribes or you ain't getting in. All Israel shall be saved. Now, non-Israelite born believers in Yeshua are still his brethren, i.e. they're in Israel, they're Israelites. Come on. Behold, if you read Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, it explains that you will be incorporated into one of the tribes you sojourn or travel to Israel with. You'll be a permanent member of that tribe and receive an equal inheritance. In other words, piece of land with that tribe for free. No mortgages, no down payment, no money. Behold, I will send you Eliah, the prophet. So it's Eliah Navi, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Well, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, which is the great day of the Lord, which is your Gog and Magog. And then we're also told in Joel 2, I'll try to find it for you, about the sign of these things. Let's see if I can find it. I don't remember the verse. It's at the bottom. Joel 2:31. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Jehovah come. Okay, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. So remember that. Let's go back to Malachi 4. And let's see if it sounds the same. Behold, I will send you Eliah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Sure sounds like that. So these two events, the moon to blood and the sun dark, and the coming of Eliah before the great and dreadful day, are probably about the same time. It might be the same day. And what day is that? If I'm right about this, that it is the exact same day, which it doesn't have to be, but if it was, then it means that Malachi working with the Levites comes after Zechariah 12, which is not, I don't think it's in sequence. Well, it may not be in sequence the way I'm seeing it, so I'm not so sure it's exactly the same day, but it doesn't have to be. It could be Zechariah 12 verse 10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplications. Now they're believers. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, one that is in bitterness for his firstborn, and then they mourn. So he pours the Spirit out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and they're believers. Then you see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, like lightning from the east to the west, sitting on the right hand of power, God the Father. Okay, and they see him. You know, this is meaningless to people unless they know the scriptures, but you go to John 6 verse 40 and you get the interpretation, and it says, and this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. So they get everlasting life right then and there. And then you see this manifested in us fighting. And I'll show you that verse. Zechariah 12:8. In that day, the day, shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them in that day shall be as David. The feeble, the old people, the crippled people, the bent over people, the ones that walk with canes and don't see and don't hear good, they're going to fight as David, who killed Goliath and a lion and a bear and was a great warrior. How about that? And the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. That's Michael. That's the glory of God of Israel that was with Moses and Aaron and the children of Israel in the wilderness, and he killed 150,000 in one day. And we're going to fight again. We'll keep fighting, but we'll be converted. It will be very easy for us. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants. Oh, we just read that. Okay. See, this is foreign to the church. They don't even know this exists. Look at Zechariah 12:6. In that day will I make the governors, the judges of Judah, like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour, it really means burn up, all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So what this is telling us is that the two witnesses are there. Who else is burning them up on the right hand and the left hand? Who else has fire coming out of their mouth? You know anybody? Who? Biden? Who? Who's got fire coming out of their mouth other than them? See what I'm saying? Church is concealing this on purpose. Don't think it's an accident. I want to read you what they just sent me. They send this out all over Israel, SMS. Tel Aviv embraces the kidnapped. What is your hug? Number one, admit. Don't understand. I don't understand what that means. I admit. Number two, Shabbat candle. So they're going to burn a Shabbat candle to free the hostages. That's making amulets or charms out of the candle. And then it says tefillin. That's the straps with the boxes and the leather. You know, it's horrible what they do to the poor people here. What they do to the people here, or what the churches do to the people around the world, in Europe and Asia and America and all that. Same thing. Same thing. Let's see what's in the chat. Kenya, okay. Guys, we do English here, so don't post in foreign languages, okay? Let's see, I think, let me check my notes here. So did we resolve anything about Elijah? Well, him appearing and training the Levites happens before the appearing of the Son of Man, which is Zechariah 12:10. So the sequence, I would think it happens first, and the bad ones are cut off, because the bad ones aren't around in Zechariah 12:10 anymore. There's no military, there's no government that will go on. So I think Elijah will start working first. My thoughts. What's going to make the people know he's Elijah? He's not going to be able to just walk, hey dudes, I'm Elijah. Yeah. They'll say, well, let's go to the emergency room and we'll get some medicine for you and you'll be fine. You know. No, he's going to have to do signs and wonders. And of course, the rich and the government are going to come after him to get rid of him when he does that. No different than the Pharisees and Sadducees getting rid of Yeshua, but Yeshua was supposed to die. These two are not dying in Israel over this, and they're not going to die at this time. And they're going, the ones coming after him are going to die. So when Zechariah 12:10 happens, remember 1 John 3:2, when you see him, you shall be like him. Those that are believers and look upon him shall have everlasting life. It doesn't happen in the future. It happens right then and there. That's the end of the age. The end of the age and the next age with everlasting life. That's it. And this is the end of the age. The age that Satan rules. Because Satan's the head of every nation, and that stops. They say world to confuse you on purpose. The word in the Greek is ion. It means age. And that's what they do. Now there's believers that resent this type of conversation, and they're not even part of the churches anymore. They know the churches are no good and they resent it. Why? They run around thinking nobody can understand prophecy, you never figure it out. Well, they never figure it out and they never understand prophecy, but I open it up for you. These are the days of Elijah after all. Elijah comes first, but he doesn't tell you how he comes first. Doesn't in the Bible, no. But we do see him training the Levites, but that's not necessarily. That's more when it appears what he is openly for all to see. The unbelievers will know he's probably Elijah. They're not going to submit to God necessarily, but they'll probably think he really is Elijah. We're not used to this. For the big time signs and wonders, it'll be, we're not used to raising the dead. We're not used to healing all the sick and lame and crippled, and you'll have all this happening again. Elijah will definitely be doing a lot of this stuff. But he's also going to be operating so-called politically too, The Muslims will interpret him as being some sort of part of the circle of the Antichrist, the Dajjal, as they call it. They'll probably attribute the glory of God of Israel to being the Dajjal, the Antichrist, and the two witnesses as his co-workers or something. They're not going to come up with the beast and the false prophet because they don't have the New Testament. I don't believe it's in the Quran. They won't get that. Nor is it in the Hadith. It won't come up. I don't think. They'll attribute something else to him. The church will probably think the glory of God of Israel is the beast because he's in a temple with animal sacrifices, and the two witnesses are the one they might think is the statue that came to life, and the other as the false prophet. But they're not going to be long for this world, believe me anymore. Most of them. Some of them will be slaves and servants, some will be gone. I'm not sure exactly on the breakdown, but their days are over with the other gospel and all that stuff, and they're, left behind raptures and all this stuff. It's no good. No good. You can't run around preaching and teaching and following another gospel and expect you're going to have a good outcome from that. What else? So it's going to be pretty soon till we start seeing Elijah start working in my book. Days, a few weeks. We got a good idea what to expect with the wars, which the church never teaches. They're not even aware of it, or if they are, they won't teach it. If any of you like this work, you could show me some gratitude with some offerings, which maybe 10% of the people do. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing. And pray for our finances and our health and our animals and pets, which are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for cooler weather. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for better videos. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. Oh, this was a long one.